What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Opinionated Off-topic. Today I got my boy Carlos Mojica with us. We got Ethan and Austin joining us, local boys. They're out here being creatives like us. Met them at the collective, super genuine dudes. They got some nice merch on. As you can see, we got the Dreamr hats on our head.
Yes, sir.
But you guys can check them out at House of Dreamr is the website's name right now?
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's where y'all can get all their stuff. Follow them. They're doing some cool content. But we're going to dive into their backstory, a little bit about them, and talk about some future plans.
Thank you for taking the time with us, Dan. Coming on the pod. Appreciate y'all. I know you have a busy schedule so it means a lot for y'all to come out. But anyways, I know we talked off camera and whatnot, but just tell us a little bit about yourselves, where you come from, what brought you here, and what got you doing what you're doing.
I'll take the reins. From Austin, born and raised. I've always wanted to do something in some creative capacity. So when the opportunity arose, when him and I connected through collective, I've always wanted to do something related to that. So leaning into that and following that was, something I knew I always wanted to do. So.
That's all you got?
Yeah, I didn't really know.
So, mainly your backstory. What are you born and raised in Austin? Been in Austin your whole life?
Yeah. Try just
bro.
Born in Austin your whole life. Played sports growing up.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, you go first.
That's my little brother.
Yeah.
He'll pick up.
Still learning.
Austin. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland originally. Born and raised there. Spent whole life there up through college. Played baseball at Johns Hopkins, and then about a year after school, I was supposed to go to Thailand and teach English for a year. And that's actually when I started kind of this whole concept. Started with a blog, which was called Wavy Dreamr, and went to Thailand for a brief stint. Had to come back, had some health issues. Figured those out, and my twin sister was down here in Austin, so moved down here shortly after that. Been here for 4 years now, and then eventually got back into figuring out my path and what I wanted to do, and realized I needed to do something creative after a certain point in time of just trying to stick it out in the corporate world and work super hard and all that shit. So I started to do more in this lane, and that's where I met Ethan at Collective, and he approached me about working on it with me, and we sat down, talked through it, and he just took the initiative, and here we are trying to get it rolling, and we have some cool stuff on the way.
Oh, yeah. Did you play baseball your whole life?
Yeah.
What position?
Pitch and shortstop.
I figured.
Yeah.
Left-handed, right-handed?
Righty.
Right-handed.
Yeah.
I was a left-handed pitcher, but I tore my labrum going into college pitching, so in my career. Yeah.
It's tough.
Damn.
Yeah.
Need that arm.
Damn.
What about you?
So I'm an Austin kid, born and raised. Went to high school out here. I'm a fifth year at UT right now, doing sports management, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of finance. But yeah, that's part of why this worked, honestly, is having so much time on my hands, just only being in a classroom 9-12 hours a week, having plenty of time to, be able to work on things. And, because everybody at that, third, fourth year of college rolls around and you're like, shit, what am I? That's when stuff gets a little real, right? And it's like, what am I going to start doing? And so that's where I'm at right now, honestly, is trying to figure that out and kind of leaning into that, though. And, I've always wanted to do something in some sort of creative capacity. So this fell into my lap, and we connected pretty instantly and, kind of learned more about what he's trying to do. And he's got such a great vision. I'm excited for him to share kind of where that came from and, where we can see this thing going. So, we hit the ground running, man, pretty quickly.
Did you play football at OT?
I did, yeah. Brief athletic stint. Yeah. Kids still got it for sure, but but yeah, brief athletic stint.
You were on the state team, right?
No. A couple of 7-on-7 state championships. No. Yeah, I'll take those.
You weren't on that crazy one? Who was on that?
No. Garrett. Malik.
Shout out Garrett.
Who else? Charlie Brewer.
That team was
all of them.
Because the guy we had on last week also went to Lake Travis.
I saw that.
And he was talking about that team was insane.
Dude, they live, breathe, and eat football there, man.
Crazy.
You got kids in speed training at 7, 8, 9 years old.
And he said the football program, whatever they had, was the hardest thing he's done to this day?
It's intense, man. Yeah, it's intense, but you know, I've met some lifelong friends through that, and you know.
Did you play all 4 years?
No, so I played freshman year, got 2 back-to-back concussions, had to shut it down after that. So
that's tough.
Yeah, brief little identity crisis there, and then you know, lean back into that. And that's actually how I started like expressing myself creatively a little bit. I did a ton of photography, took pictures for the football team, and that kind of translated into concert photography. But that's like when I truly started like leaning into that like creative side. I think.
Okay, that's super interesting because our boy Albert, like, he's super big on concert photography. Like, that's his favorite thing to shoot. I'm curious, is that your favorite thing to shoot when you were shooting?
100%, man. Yeah, I love live music. When I grew up on it, we were talking before this about ACL, and I've probably been going since I was like 5.
Yeah.
And I always saw photography as a tool to give me access to this music world and like develop relationships and stuff like that, kind of outside of just taking pictures. And I just like used the two to combine and worked with some pretty cool bands, had some cool opportunities. Parker McCollum, Midland,
Nice.
Shot ACL last year for iHeartRadio. Probably gonna do that again this year. I think.
You still shoot?
A little bit here and there. When I can, but both of those guys are on country ride tours right now, so when they come through I try and
link
shoot
up
their
with
stuff.
them. Yeah. That's crazy.
So y'all met at the Collective. What is that?
Take that one.
Yeah, I'll take it. So it's a social performance club in Austin. I actually work there part-time a little bit, so I'm kicking into my tour mode in terms of selling y'all on a membership right now. But
He's already got it.
Yeah, that's right. But it's like a social performance club. So the idea was that they create everything under one roof. So whether that's like recovery, the medical side of stuff, the gym, but the co-working too. And I try and tell people like, and we're literally like the fruit from that, which is the community and the relationships you can build, like truly makes a membership priceless. Like the business owners, the entrepreneurs that I've like bumped shoulders with, like that's how we linked up with Kenny, and we'll talk about more about like what we're doing with him. But like even the guys like Devin on the ownership side, Jeremy,
Devin,
and then like members too, like prominent business owners like Khalil with Sun Life and guys like that are super tapped in and like will genuinely, like, even though I'm just a 22-year-old kid, like will talk to me about what's going on in their business, what's going on in their life, and like genuinely care about you. So I like it.
And how did that conversation even start? Like, did you know him before he even went to? Did you just sign up and go to the Collective, or?
I've been going there for like over a year now. Before they even officially opened.
Yeah.
So I met him. Like, I think he just saw me wearing one of these hats, and we chopped it up, and here we are, business partners a couple months later. So
that's dope. And were both of y'all into like a streetwear stuff idea, or was it you? Then you just tagged along on it.
Yeah. So, and I call him this all the time, but like he's like the QB1 of the vision. He's got great sense of style, great fashion, and I'm learning. I'm taking some things here and there when I can. But he's behind a lot of the genius behind the brand. But I think I probably was giving him some shit or something, or was like, yo, when am I gonna get one of these hats or something like that. He does a lot of our creative stuff, and you're not gonna catch him slacking much. Not to gas him up too much. I'll probably never say this again.
That's kind of that's kind of what made me look him up, because I saw him in the gym one time, and I was like, I think he like was in the bathroom or something, and he came back out, and then he like started working out, but he had like on the Travis ones already, like the low ones, and I was like, damn, who is that? Like, he's just like casually wearing these at the gym, and then the like shorts I had on earlier, those like A shorts, like I saw you had those on. I was like, I have those too, and then
same potential.
Yeah, exactly. And then I don't know how I found you, but I like saw something, you got tagged in something, and I was like, that's definitely him. Like, so I just followed you, and then DM'd you, and then
here we are.
Kind of same kind of thing that you were talking about, like how y'all met. It's just like the same reason, because I mean, the connections there are crazy. So
it really is a vessel. Like the people, you wouldn't think that you'd be in the same room with some of these people, and to kind of just bump shoulders with them. I mean, that's how we have, hopefully this coming NBA season and this NFL season right now, you'll see some picks, but like, Kenny really hooked it up in terms of putting our hats in Connect, and had a lot of big athletes roll through there and cop some of our hats and stuff. So whether it's that, whether it's access, whether it's the relationships and stuff like that, I mean, it's a good spot, man.
What got you into like fashion and streetwear?
I mean, I always liked clothes, like, I don't know, always liked shoes, always had so many pairs of sneakers growing up. My mom would get on me, like, stop charging the credit card, you know?
Yeah.
But no, like, you know, I graduated college, moved down here. I think where I grew up in Maryland is a very, like, well, split time between, my parents were split, so I lived in Baltimore City and then also in the county. But where I went to school was a private school in the county, like a very preppy area. So, you know, kids are walking around in their khakis and their vineyard vines, and we'd wear a uniform to school. So you're not really able to, like, express yourself that much, right? Like, day to day, if you're not going to a public school where you don't have a uniform. But then once I got to college, I don't know, I mean, I was just, like, still wearing the same stuff, and, you know, got out of school, got a little money, and then started, like, spending some money on clothes. Just liked, you know, that aspect of expressing myself in that way. And, you know, then the tattoos followed and everything else. But I probably started with the long hair and the sneakers, and then got into the clothing, and now the tats, and here we are with a streetwear brand. But I mean, for me, like, this whole thing never started with fashion. Like, it always just started with me writing. And I can dive into that if you guys want me to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I appreciate your sentiment, but
Yeah.
I'm not a genius. I mean, I think I just, for a while growing up, like, I didn't, you know, we grow up in places where we're very conditioned, right? Like, our environment ultimately shapes who we are, and then it's on us to unlearn those things and get closer to, like, our truest self, I think. But ultimately, that's kind of like what my experience was, transitioning out of school, moving down here, trying to find my path, right? Like, I worked in finance after school for a year, hated that, right? I did that because that's what we're taught to do, right?
Absolutely.
By our parents, by our friends, by society, by our university. Like, this is the path, follow it, because that's what everyone else has done, and that's what they're comfortable telling you to do, right? And then, you know, got down here, still doing that, still working tech sales, but for me, I always felt like a sense of purpose when I created anything, and whether that was writing something or now getting into fashion, you know, I think it just helped me feel more aligned with myself. But ultimately, where it all started was back about a year after school when I was going to Thailand. I was going to write about my journey. Like, I always enjoyed writing. Where that started, and I can get into the name behind it, is I had, you know, well, basically went home, quit my job after, like, probably 6 months, went home, waited a couple months to go to Thailand, started this blog, called it Wavy Dreamer, and I can get into the meaning behind that. But basically, first thing I posted, I got Snapchats from my friends, like, from college, kind of mocking it, like, at a pregame, reading it out loud. And then that was kind of the pause on that for a few years. But eventually, about a year and a half ago, I got back into writing and sharing it on social media. But, you know, since then, it took off a little bit, organically grew. That account has since been hacked, so we restarted.
Damn, that sucks.
Yeah,
it was a good
bit of a hurdle.
Good way to, like, rebrand it a bit from Wavy Dreamer, which was really just an alias that I wrote under, to House of Dreamer, which is more, like, all-encompassing what we want to do fashion-wise. But yeah, I can, you know, dive more into that if you guys want me to.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, how'd you come up with the name, like, Wavy Dreamer, and how'd you turn it into a House of Dreamer?
Yeah. So there's, like, a short thing that I wrote about it. It's like life is up and down. Every wave eventually crashes, but they're beautiful when they do. And there's a moment of brilliance in every wave, the same way that there is, like, in life, right? So if we hold on to those moments, although life is up and down, right? We live and think in waves of consciousness. You know, there's always going to be those moments in there that you can learn from, you can pull the lessons from, and you can hold on to. So it's kind of a play on that. But for me personally, a big source of, like, inspiration for me when I realized I enjoyed writing and I was good at it and had that gift, was when I wrote my grandmother's eulogy and read that out loud. And I think for me that was, like, kind of starting point for people coming up to me and saying like, oh, you actually, you kind of need to hear that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
From people, you think you have something, but when you get that validation, it helps you actually step out of your comfort zone and do something that might be a little uncomfortable and nobody else around you has done. But I think I really needed that. And then from there, it was really just kind of an ode to my grandparents. For me, growing up, was super close with my mom, and she was kind of my rock, and thought deeper about that and her parents' influence in her life. And I was really close with my grandparents, and they both passed. But my grandfather, when my mom was in high school, was paralyzed when he was pulled under a wave when they're on vacation, and was paralyzed for a few years, learned to walk again. But that was during like a pivotal time in her life and a huge like developmental time for her, right? That kind of shaped who she became and ultimately who she was or is to me, as my mom. And then my grandmother, who I was really close with, would always just say, love you to the moon and back. And she was always that person that, reminded me that no dream is too small, right? So it was a combination of that, and, started writing under that alias, would sign things off as like XO Wavy. And that was never me calling myself Wavy. That was, for me, that part of it is like, trust your intuition. Like, that's your intuition, listen to it, because it's going to tell you, like, ultimately guide you in your most, desired path relative to your truest self, I think. So
That's dope.
Yeah, that was really it. But it's cool to see people like look at it and give it their own meaning. But for me, that's mine. And I think, it's a cool thing to allow people to look at it and like see part of themselves in it and just like define it whatever way they want to.
Because earlier you said you wrote your first blog, and then you had your friends send you Snapchats of seeing at a pregame. Mm-hmm. Did that why'd you stop after that?
No, I think it was just, for me, I was going through a lot myself, just a lot of self-doubt, lack of confidence. I think I had voices inside my head that weren't mine telling me things, and I had to find my own voice, and it took me time to do that. And I always like saying that I always felt like I had a lot to say, but I had a lot to learn before I could say it. And I wrote something after I saw that, and I was so close to posting it, and the tone of what I wrote was just so different then than what it was when I addressed it a few years later, and what I shared and wrote about it a year and a half ago, because of the time that I took to really learn and grow and see the situation differently, and realize that I think we get to certain points in our life at different times relative to our friends, right? And we see people doing things and they came from the same place, so we might look at it and judge it because maybe we're jealous of it, or maybe we don't think we could do it, or we're like, why them, why not me, right? And I think when you do anything that's a little bit out there, so to speak, or different than what everyone else is doing, you're going to be judged, and you're not going to please everyone, right? You're not going to say the right thing all the time. That's impossible to do. But for me, I just realized, one, it's not a reflection of me, it's a reflection of them, but it's also a reflection of their understanding of me at that time, and not really taking the time to understand that someone can learn and change and grow. Because for sure, when I was in college, I was an asshole, right? I was that dude that just wanted to hook up with girls and go out and party and drink, and nobody saw me as, oh, this dude has deeper thoughts, struggles with mental health, wants to talk about it, is a writer. I didn't share that then. I had that all inside of me, but I never shared it, so they never got to see it. So I can't really, judge them either for looking at me and being a little shocked by that, and maybe not taking to it as well as they have over time at first. And then also, I think you have to give people, in the same way that I grew over that time, I never wanted to just rule anyone out based off of one experience or one thing that happened. So for me, I understood how much I've changed and I've grown in the past 3-5 years, right? Whatever it is. So I also have to give them the chance to do the same thing, right? And maybe with time and with growth, they look at me differently. They look at what I'm doing differently. And I know that for a fact, because a lot of those people reach out to me and have reached out to me and, apologize in some sense, but also just supported what I'm doing now. And I think it's important to realize that we all grow at different times and we all get to, different understandings, and you can't rush other people with your timelines, right? We're all on different timelines with that. So that was an important thing for me to learn. I'm glad I didn't say what I wanted to say in that moment, right? Like Drake says, his mom told him to wait 72 hours before responding to anything.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Just sit with yourself and sit with it, and time teaches you a lot that you don't have right away.
Because typically when we do respond, it's with emotion, not with how we actually feel. So
no thought process.
no thought process behind it. Then you end up saying something that you regret saying, or you're like, damn, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. More times than I can count. Man.
Yeah, I think that goes for all of us.
Yeah.
The writing and all that. Well, how much did that help with like your mental? Because like that is like a big thing, and
man.
especially for us that played baseball, like it's a big mental struggle playing it. Because let's face it, we suck more of the times that we're good.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, for me, it helped a lot. I think I was always in and out of therapy growing up, and I felt super lost, struggled with depression, like a dissociative disorder, anxiety, all of that. And I really had to kind of figure out what worked for me. And I never like to tell people like what to do, right? Because what works for you is different than what works for me. But ultimately, a few years ago is when I kind of found that. And one was like just focusing on, both your mental and physical health, right? Like getting outside more. I started running a lot, ran a couple marathons. That helped clear my mind. Writing everything out helped a ton, and also was just something that I enjoyed doing for the enjoyment of writing, but also switching my association and who I surrounded myself with. I think that's a huge like piece of life that a lot of people underestimate and think, oh, I can't do that because I've been friends with them for this long, so I have to stay friends with them. But if someone doesn't have the same drive as you, or their presence in your life isn't serving you, and they're doing things that aren't going to get you to where you want to be, like just cut ties, right? Like it's okay. Eventually you might find your way back to each other, but if it doesn't feel right for you and you don't feel right in that setting, right around those people, that was for me the biggest thing. Like protect your peace, and if I'm in certain situations and I'm not at peace with myself, then I'll remove myself. And ultimately you have to do that with people as well in your life sometimes, and set those boundaries. So that was a big thing. But definitely the writing and writing about that kind of stuff helped a lot too. And I think a lot of people can relate to that because we all go through that to some extent.
Yeah.
So writing and going through like your mental struggles and your journey, what was kind of that transitional phase? I know you like grew up with sneakers and streetwear and stuff like that, and after college started doing that. Because for me at least, and him, like playing sports, and then you like kind of you're done. Like you don't play sports after that. Where'd your mind go, and what made you get into making clothes and being creative?
Yeah, so I mean the writing helped. I think for me it's all about balance, right? Like one, using my 9-to-5 as a stepping stone, and then investing my time in things that I enjoy doing outside of that. So that was started with writing, and then someone suggested like you should turn this into a brand. It's a cool name, you can brand it really well. And started with truckers, sold out of almost all of them really quickly, restocked, sold those, and then from there I was like, I don't have anything to follow it up with, because I didn't really know at the time I wanted to do more than that. But then once I saw like how people took to it, I think I just naturally kind of gravitated towards doing more in that lane. But I think fashion is just another form of expression, right? Like life reflects art, art reflects life, whether that's writing, fashion, photography, whatever it is. There's unique ways for us to continue sharing the purpose behind what we're doing and the meaning behind it, and also incorporate it into our collections, what we release, the foundation that we have behind those collections that will support different organizations with each drop. Just unique ways to take certain phrases, build on that concept, link it to an organization, and just try to do some good, right? Like for me, it's not, yes, I have aspirations of getting to that like luxury streetwear level of a Rude, a Fear of God, a Kith, but for me, it's, I never want to lose my why, and that's always been just to help other people feel less alone and to help them along their journey, and that's really the purpose that I think we, obviously stand on, but ultimately that I hope we never lose along the way, no matter how big it gets or wherever it goes. Always want to stay true to that because that's the most important thing ultimately.
Yeah.
From meeting him and coming on to working with him, how much have you learned from him about, like, I guess that streetwear side of business and coming up with ideas?
Yeah, tons, man. So the way we actually linked up was we talked about, just me still being at UT, we talked about this idea of like doing a college related drop, and I'm like, dude, I promise you it would pop off. You make something that's marketable in some way, like, even though that's not necessarily where we see it going, but if you make something marketable to that college demographic and have the right people push it and wear it, it's going to pop off. And so, we were talking about that here and there a little bit. And then he went off to Lollapalooza, like we were talking about earlier. And he texted me and was like, dude, I'm locked out of the Wavy Dreamr Instagram account. And that's where he built this huge following. And it was weird because it was like, we sat in that for a little bit and we're like, damn, that's tough. But then immediately jumped into like, okay, so where do we go from here, right? We settled upon like some sort of rebranding. And we wanted to, like, it's great to express ourselves creatively and make clothes and like have this fashion house of House of Dreamr, but something we talk about all the time is like decades from now, if we're just remembered for making cool shit, we've failed. Like, if we truly, and why we created House of Dreamr is it's truly an umbrella. So came in and we're doing the Dreamr Foundation nonprofit, so proceeds from everything that sells forever will go into that. We're building a pretty big board of some prominent Austin people that are gonna, I think, really move numbers and be able to make some true change. And from there, we're doing the Dreamr podcast as well, is in the works. Dreamr Consulting as well, so we're going to work with some different businesses, and you guys have seen some of our collaborations like with Kenny and G1. But yeah, I mean, I've learned a ton from this dude. Like, it's been a learning process in general, like from the shit show of having the Instagram deleted, like, and shipments delayed and stuff like that. Like, I've learned a ton of stuff in the business world, and I've learned a ton of stuff about clothing and the production side of things. But something I value more is like, he's got a couple years on me, and but through the things he's, like we said, like he said earlier, we all have our unique experiences, and we all have our own past and our own stories. Like, every person is unique, and so you combine his age but with his unique experiences, and he's taught me a ton, self-confidence and different things related to that in fashion, just that kind of idea of like, as long as you're comfortable in what you're doing and what you're wearing, who gives a shit? And that is something we're trying to emulate too. So not only like generational impact with the foundation and the different things we're doing, like related to the drops, but stuff that people feel good in, like you have Dreamr across your head, but you feel good about that, and you stand behind that, and you're your own Dreamr in your own way, but also just something you feel good in, something that brings you confidence. Like, that itself is something I've learned a ton, whether it's external or internal confidence related. 100%. And
then how much when you started everything, you're just by yourself, and then he came along? How much has that helped you?
Oh, a ton. Like, I mean, I had a bad experience with a business partner that I was going to start doing things with, and just, one thing, like I said earlier, right? Like, eliminate the people that don't have the same drive as you. Like, this is my baby, and like, it's like, this is my dream to build something that has an impact, that is cool, like you said, right? Like, we want to make pieces that people identify with and see a part of themselves in, and can relate to and feel good wearing because there's a good cause behind it, but also they feel good in it, right? They feel like they look cool, they feel good, they can be better to themselves when they're in a good fit, and they can be better to the world around them because of that, right? But yeah, I had a bad experience, won't dive into that, and then was kind of reluctant to really bring anyone else on to do it with me. But he just came to me with the idea for the UT collab, and I pretty much told him, like, this is what happened before. It's more of a show me, don't tell me type thing, and he just took the initiative and showed me that he has the same amount of drive and, you know, skin in the game and same buy-in. He sees the vision. He wants to be a part of it, and it was a no-brainer at that point. And he's just a good person, cool dude to kick it with. You know, ultimately, we all just want to do dope shit with dope people, right?
Yep.
You know, it's not about necessarily what you do, it's about who you do it with.
Yep. That goes a long way.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, just piggyback off what you said, every time I'd go into the collective, before I even, like, had a conversation with him, super friendly. Like, there's people that'll greet you, but, like, he's, like, greet you and we'll talk to you. And, like, that goes a long way because, I mean, then talk to you, and then the day I, like, kind of like the day after I talked to you, I'm leaving, and he's like, hey, he's like, you've been talking to Austin? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, he's like, I actually help him with House of Dreamr. I was like, oh, really? Then we started talking. Yeah. And then, I mean, even with him, just like having like the business partner aspect of things and having someone that, you know, believes in it as much as you, trust it as much as you, is really special. I mean, CJ too, like him starting up what he started up, it's very special to see like everyone still being able to stay focused like that, especially when things aren't going your way or things are hard, or it's like, oh, like we haven't made enough money or any money. It's like, why are we still doing this? But I think it's like a special like knit, like you don't really know why you're doing it. It's just in you. And once you find those other people that are in you or that are with you, then it just goes a long way.
100%.
So I guess going from there, starting y'all's first couple pieces, the UT collab and stuff like that, kind of talk to us about what you guys got going on now, kind of linking with Kenny and how that relationship work out.
Yeah, we can touch on this too if you want, but released these truckers in like 6 different colors at first, and like I said, didn't have anything to follow it up with, and then over the past few months we've just gotten to a point where we're ready to really, you know, take off. I learned how to do apparel graphic design in that time. You know, we've kind of built relationships with different wholesalers, luxury wholesalers in Portugal and in Italy, and places that we'll get like higher quality material from, put our designs on. Each drop coming up I think is special. It's cool to start with the UT one because, like, you know, Ethan said earlier, collective was is, you know, just a huge stepping stone for us. It's almost like a ladder that like we just shot up. We skipped like 10 steps really, just from the connections that we have there with Kenny, who, you know, is also now a business partner of ours with this. You know, I think you don't get that in many places, right? So to kind of give a nod to those people, and most of the people that started collective, right, all went to UT. They you know, lived in Austin for a long time, so it's cool to start with that and kind of give them a nod. And you know, the fact that they put us on and continue to is really dope and something that we're super thankful for. But that won't be dope. We'll do a football related shoot at the stadium, so we're excited to release that. We've got that coming up, and that'll probably drop mid-October. Okay. It's like right middle of the football season. Likely we'll follow that up with something during the basketball season as well, some more like winter pieces. But we've got 3 or 4 hats on the way, a couple shirts, super cool, clean design, and then after that we'll get into our first like signature collection, which is called No More Heartbreaks, and that's like this kind of design here, which if I clear my notifications.
Popular guy.
That's why I'm here.
There you go.
That's fire. That's dope.
But just every time I call him, it goes right to voicemail.
Got a lot of shit going on.
I feel that. No More Heartbreaks, so that'll support an organization that supports children who are 5 and under that have been abused and abandoned.
Okay.
And then after that, we'll do probably a Dreamr racing concept next. And that is really just, we're trying to pair like little phrases that I've written, right? Like short phrases with ideas and concepts. So like obviously the heart goes with the no more heartbreaks. Dreamr racing, that phrase is, it goes by so fast. And that'll be for probably an Alzheimer's organization. That's who my grandmother died from. So I want to do that. And then we have a bunch of other concepts that we've lined up that we won't give away
for
yet.
Sure.
But, you know, over the next year, we'll probably release 5 or 6. We'll do an essentials line at some point as well.
Yeah.
And then from there, look to keep doing that, but also long-term branch into some more custom cut and sew type designs.
Yeah.
And more custom pieces versus just luxury level blanks that we're embroidering.
Yeah, like that upper level, like red carpet type vibe. I feel like like those pieces, the player pieces, stuff like that. Yeah.
100%.
And we'll also do, you know, probably outside of our collections, a lot of collaborations throughout that process.
Oh
too.
yeah, for
So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's, you know, that's why Kenny has been such a blessing for us. Is like, you know, from the jump when he got out the league, like his main intention was to hit the ground running, right? So he's got G1, he's got Collective, he's got Connect, and he's been great to us from the jump. Like whether it's putting stuff in Connect or, you know, putting us on to different people or looping us into certain conversations and meetings and stuff. You know, he's always been super intentional and super great to us. You know, they're transitioning out of that Collective space into a pretty prominent area in terms of storefront, probably one of the most heavily foot trafficked spots in our city.
Yeah.
You know, he works his ass off, man. That guy doesn't sleep and does a lot for a lot of people. You know, he got his bag in the league, could have fucked off and just lived with his family and spent a ton of time there, and he still does that. He's a great dad. But, you know, he pours into a ton of people. He's got a fund in the works for his gamers in terms of, you know.
He sent to me, just released that about gamers. They like investments out, like when they're done gaming, it's like, what am I doing now?
Yeah, man, he's super intentional, and he, you know, not to, you know, give away everything we're doing, but he moves different.
Definitely.
And that's a theme of something we got in the works a little bit, but he's gonna put our stuff in his new storefront. You know, we didn't ask him. He's not asking anything from us.
Wow.
So super thankful for that.
That's dope. It's nice of him to do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying,
So you do have one of his hats on.
Yeah.
Those aren't released yet.
These are unreleased, but
Unreleased.
we'll release them soon, probably late next week. Possibly on the G1 site, but probably on ours. And then we'll just push it out via social. We've got a couple hats, so there's a black one as well, different style hat, which is pretty cool. But yeah, we'll pump these out, and they have a huge opportunity as well with their apparel line that they can do long term. So we're also gonna run that. That's kind of more of the consulting aspect of the whole umbrella that long term we're looking to create.
Absolutely.
So that's where we'll start. Like he said, be in the store with our stuff, and, you know, also do some different things with G1 and collaborations there and Collective as well. But a lot in the works. There's a lot of moving pieces, but it's fun to learn just business at like a high level. Honestly, like I try to think, and I've always, you know, say this, but try to do things now that we would do in 5 years with the type of infrastructure that we'll have in 5 years. Like think that way.
Yeah.
And move that way now, and you'll get there a lot quicker.
Absolutely.
So everything, we're not compromising brand integrity by putting something out, right, that isn't up to that standard that we want it to be, or where we would want it 5 years from now. So it's kind of how we're moving on everything. And, you know, I feel a little rushed sometimes to just like accomplish what I want to with it, bro. But I have to remind myself that there's no rush, right? Like we are, you know, helping people along the way. So that's the most important thing, like I said. And as long as we're doing that, like, what's the rush on the rest of it? It'll come with time.
Yeah. And the journey's everything too. I mean, some people get there too quick, and then they don't know how to handle it, or something happens, and then you're like, okay, what I followed up with, and you lose that opportunity. Yeah. So it's like having that preparation, having those reps, just being, very present in those moments. Because I mean, everyone wants to have that money, everyone wants to be famous, whatever the case may be. Everyone has their own motives, and then you get there too quick. A lot of times you don't know how to handle it or be mature about what's happening, and then a lot of times you forget that overall vision and the reason why you started doing what you're doing.
100%. Yeah, always gotta. I think back to when I just wrote the first thing I ever wrote and put it on my Instagram story, and that was maybe 2 years ago. And now to be here sitting at this table talking about this at this level, I'm just where it's crazy. I'm super grateful. I need to remind myself more of that sometimes, but you're 100% right. I think we tend to get caught up in this race against time, and just have to remind ourselves you show gratitude, good things will come to you, I think. So
how much has Kenny motivated y'all? Because like you said, he doesn't sleep, he's always working, always doing this and this, and then you got these two young guys, because obviously you're younger than him, that just come with him and have this idea and want to do this and this, and he takes his money and invests into y'all.
Yeah, I mean, you can touch on this too, but I have my take on it. Even just being in that space, a collective, you're around certain people that move a certain way, and that's also part of I think sometimes what I struggle with anxiety, or just my own thoughts of feeling rushed, because I look at them and I know the potential that I have and my ideas and all that, right? You probably relate to that.
Yeah.
You're damn, I want to be on that level right now, right? But we live in this world of instant gratification, and it's cool to sit down and talk with them, someone like Khalil, who I know you've spoken with a lot, and just understand how much work it actually takes. You are never going to get anywhere without doing the work, and it's cool to be around people that are in collective every day. Kenny especially lives and breathes that. He is always out there, always working, always doing something, and just to see someone who's had that much success still have that much hunger and want to make an impact and help people in their life, learning from someone like that it's invaluable. You can't put a price on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, he's made a lot of money already. And when you look into, okay, why is he still up early every morning? Why is he still working late nights? You're there's got to be something else there than just personal gain, right? So seeing him pour into his team and his people, and the concept of putting your boys on is second nature to him. Being able to ask, no skin in the game, nothing in return, but to position people strategically in certain ways so they have access and opportunities that they would, we were talking about this in a meeting with him today, just access and positioning. You're not jumping through 5 hoops, you're skipping 4 steps. Him being intentional, whether it's through pouring into his gaming team, his media team, the fund he's creating, he finds so much fulfillment, and it keeps him up at night. When you talk to him, it's he cares so much about the success and the longevity, and it's the same reason you like giving gifts more than receiving them. Seeing the fruit and finding the fruit in other people's success that you're contributing to is so much more rewarding. And I think that he's chasing that feeling, and that's super inspiring for us, because it's we're not chasing, it's cool to see a NBA player in our hat and be that's awesome, but to use our foundation to donate to the Neighborhood Longhorns program and put kids in certain positions that and to contribute to that, we find so much more fruit in that, the same way that he does. So feeding off of that and learning off that has been a blessing for sure.
And I was gonna bring that up, him bringing in the people that he brings, obviously, because being in the league a long time, knows a lot of people, but just the athletes that are there, because we keep up with all sports, so we always see who's here and whatnot. Michael Parsons, Jalen Ramsey, and all these big names people, and them buying y'all's apparel. What does that mean to y'all?
Yeah, I mean, I posted something about this, and I could probably find it, but it's important to get it on people like that, because influence culture, right? They influence fashion. You know, they have their runways and they walk them, and what they're wearing other people want to wear. So yes, in some aspect it's important to get it on the right people. So having them walk through Collective, see it in Connect, John Morant walk in and spend 15 grand and buy 2 things for himself, and one of them is a hat of ours and the other one is a pair of jeans. Like, that's just one validation right there, and the fact that we have something, you know, that pops in that way and stands out on a rack next to a Rude hat, next to whatever other hats are on that shelf or whatever other shirts are on that rack. It's a huge validation for me, but you know, I got text a while ago when we released the hats initially, and I think it was at a club in Austin, and like someone was like, yo, there's like 5 people in here wearing your hats or something. And it's cool, but like for me it's still about the everyday person. Like, everyone puts their pants on the same way, right? Like, we all have aspirations, we all have a dream, we all want to like do different things, right? But for me to reach like those people because they think the design's cool, that's great. But for us to reach, you know, the 17-year-old version of myself, right? Like Virgil Abloh says, everything I do is for the 17-year-old version of myself. Like, that's who I want to reach. Like, I want people to, you know, see that part of themselves in this, identify with it, and ultimately, like, the biggest satisfaction for me to this point that I've gotten out of any of this is the messages that I would receive when I would write something and people would respond to it and, you know, say things that were, you know, I'm not going to share on here, but like, you know, just touching and ultimately made me feel fulfilled, because those thoughts just came from me feeling alone, right? And writing things down on my phone or in my journal over time. And then when I chose to share them, other people saw parts of themselves in that and related to it, and that helped me feel less alone in those thoughts, right? So the more we can do that, the more we can help people, the more we can build confidence in our communities and our friend groups, and ultimately have like realer conversations that lead to deeper connections, right? Like, that's what we're here to do, I think, is to form connections with people and build relationships and leave a legacy in that way. So that's the most important thing, at least for me. And probably we'll get back to writing and sharing that in some form on the account in some way. Still trying to figure that out, but I don't want to lose that aspect of it. Yeah.
And then for you as well, now coming on, and this is basically your brand as well. Like, how did that feel for you? For, as he said, John Morant, just to pick one of y'all's pieces, and y'all probably didn't even say anything to him. It's just there, and he just grabs it.
Yeah, it's special, man. And like, you know, I'm not gonna lie and be like, oh, you know, it's whatever. Like, it feels good, you know, and it's a little bit of gratification, and you know, kind of there's proofs in the pudding a little bit. Like, it's just more so motivation to kind of lean into what we're trying to build. But yeah, like we were talking about earlier, it's much more than that. Like, you know, we've both been fortunate to build, you know, fairly decently sized networks just based on relationships and stuff like that. And, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, it's great as a brand to have a big PR list and to be able to send it to people that are going to throw up a story. And it's great to build awareness and build, you know, your brand's reputation up. But yeah, like, we could have as many followers at the end of the day, but like, what still gets me equally as excited is like the nonprofit side of things and leaning into and diving into that. And, you know, because what comes with the exposure of the brand also increases the exposure of our foundation, right? So it's cool that Jaws buying a hat, you know, whether it's Garrett or Leonard Fournette or other like NFL guys that have the hat and stuff like that, like, that's cool. But for them to not only learn about our brand, but learn about what we're doing on the nonprofit side of things, they're also able to identify with that as well and see that avenue. Like, yeah, these guys aren't just trying to build some hype brand. Like, it's much more than that. And we talk about this all the time. Like, we have failed if that's all we've done is we want to put cool stuff on cool people, because on the business side of things, like, that's what sells. But if that's all we've accomplished, we've failed. So
yeah. Go ahead.
No, something I just thought of is, like, you know, I don't know who said this, but it's such a great, I'll probably botch it, but it's like, we're here to make an impact, not a living. If you make an impact, you live a full life, right? Like, I think, yes, it's cool to do really cool things and make a living doing it, and that's obviously a part of, selfishly, like, our reasons for doing everything we do, right? We have to, right? We got to feed ourselves, feed our families, and, you know, we're ambitious people who want to build things and, you know, do big business, right? So that's a part of it. But I think when you do something that has a purpose behind it, you know, you're always gonna, at least for me, you know, that's what keeps me going. And like, there's nothing that's gonna stop us. Like, doesn't matter what happens externally, like, we will figure it out, we will make it happen, and we will fulfill this vision for as long as I'm breathing. Like, it's gonna happen, because that is our purpose, and that's the reason behind it. And as long as we stay in that and we live in that and we work through that and live our life out through that and represent that with our brand, like, good things will happen.
That's my quarterback.
QB1.
That's my quarterback.
Y'all had touched on starting a podcast earlier in content creation, and I've seen a few videos from you and then just like photos and stuff. Yeah. So I guess outside of, you know, the clothes and the nonprofits and the foundations and the giving back, what are kind of y'all's next steps for content creation or tying the content with the brand?
Sure. Yeah, at least with the podcast, you know, aside from brand awareness, right, and building the brand and building our own brands, like, the ability to storytell and the ability to have, you know, whether it's prominent people on or athletes or, you know, people in the mental health space, the nonprofit world, and to come on and share their dream or share what they're doing and, you know, give them a platform and, you know, lean into that heavy is something, again, like the foundation as well is, you know, that's the kind of picture we're looking at, like the entire umbrella in terms of content creation. So yeah, it's cool to, you know, clip something from this podcast or clip something from interviews and stuff, but we care much more about, you know, we're not paying some huge media team to grow us a ton on TikTok or anything like that. Like, our goal truly is to spread certain messages and be super intentional in the way that we do that versus just like pumping cool stuff out. And like, naturally the cool stuff will come. I think we're two creative dudes, and like, but the intention behind it is what will, like, that'll stick, the longevity, and that will come from our intentions, I think, behind it, rather than just like pumping stuff out. But yeah, good stuff, a lot of stuff in the works for sure, man.
Yeah, just to add to that briefly, like, for the podcast, have, you know, certain people on to talk about their story, their journey, right? Like, whatever they've built, where it started, you know, I think we all have that dream in some sense, right? And then dive into their journey, what they learned, what lessons they took, what they struggled with, you know, how they dealt with that, you know, ultimately just sharing things that can provide value in some sense. That's the main goal. That's what drives business, right? Is providing value. So if you're not doing that, you don't have a business. And ultimately, we just want to share messages that provide value in some way to those listeners. So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much it for me, for him. It's dope that y'all are dope, genuine dudes. And I like that what y'all doing besides the clothing and the whole nonprofit stuff is way more important than like the actual clothing. And I like that y'all care about that a lot. And it means a lot because, I mean, sure, you can have the Rudes and the Keiths and all that, but the difference between y'all is y'all care about the nonprofit part of it. And then I'm not saying that they don't, but like, that's not their motivation. That's their motivation is like the clothes and like selling and making the money. So I like where y'all's heads at and what y'all got going. It's dope.
Yeah, I mean, just meeting y'all, and then obviously the stuff's dope, but then like hearing y'all's story, kind of very similar to like us, is just cool to like, everything's been super intentional, at least for us in the last year or so. Mainly this year, the people we've really gotten close with network are all like the same. It's like really cool to see, just talking to another genuine person. You meet so many people out there that are trying to start stuff, but it's only for like a few motives. It's not for the long-term lasting impact too. So it's cool chopping it up with y'all. It was fire.
Appreciate you guys having us.
Yeah, for sure.
Y'all pretty much have the same thing as us, is just help people out and grow. So
That's love, man. We really appreciate y'all.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
y'all have anything for us before we hit this bad boy off?
I guess this will be out when our first drop
Yeah, right around.
Should
It'll
be
be
out.
perfect, honestly.
right around then. So
Yeah.
make sure y'all show love. Get it while
course,
the block is hot.
always.
Get it while it's hot.
For sure.
Before it goes.
Yeah.
House of Dreamers everywhere.
At House of Dreamer, obviously.
The R.
just-
Remove the
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
No second E.
No second
Yeah.
E.
No second E.
Alrighty. We'll put all the information down below in the description. Their family, y'all go show them love. You know how it is. But that'll do it for your boys over here at Opinionated. We'll catch y'all guys next time. Peace.
Peace.